Hi, welcome! If you're new here, I'm Mary and I hook books. I crochet projects inspired by the audiobooks that I'm listening to. This is going to be my mid-month check-in for the month of March 2023, and it has been a crazy week. Beware the Ides of March indeed. And we just had a tornado warning and now just scattered thunderstorms. So if you do hear any rain or thunder in the background, I apologize in advance. So, 10 books so far in March. Let's go. The first book I finished this month was Cultish, The Language of Fanaticism by Amanda Montell, and I've talked quite a bit about this already. I appreciated the MLM aspect, the fitness, cult of personality aspect that she really went into, but if someone is a little less familiar than I am with cults in general, I think they would find this really interesting. I personally gave it a 4.25. Then I read The Sister Wife's Secret by Anya Mora, and I talked about this one a bit in one of my vlogs. It was 3.25 for me. The characters were great. The writing was okay. I made this cute little heart garland while I was reading that, and this reminded me of the old Sister Wives logo, if you've seen that show on TLC, and I loved that show when it first came out, and I love their motto that love should be multiplied, not divided. And I loved that, families can look many, many different ways, as long as there's a lot of love there. Of course, now I guess that Sister Wives is completely dissolved, but Janelle and Christine are supposed to get a spin-off, and that I'm actually kind of interested in. Anyway, back to the books. Then I read This Is Going to Hurt, Secret Diaries of a Junior Doctor by Adam Kay, and this I gave 5 stars. I loved this book. It had heart, it was hilarious, and in that last chapter, it just gut punched you in a good way. And I normally don't do nonfiction projects, but inspired by that, I made this little first aid kit here. Another one I've already talked a bit about is The Secret Life of Words, English words and their origins, and this one was really interesting. It made me realize just how snooty and pretentious we can be with language when that is really kind of ridiculous. Language is always changing, and things like flat verbs that used to bother me as a grammar snob, or things like singular and plural pronouns being interchangeable. These things aren't set in stone, and even when they have been set in stone, per se, 400 years later, it's completely different. So language is always changing, and some regional dialects that we would think of maybe as sounding uneducated or colloquial actually are much more representative of what English should sound like if it weren't so messed up and didn't have all these weird grammar exceptions. So the big takeaway for me from The Secret Life of Words is to chill out a little bit more about it. And I've always had a little bit of respect for regional dialects and new words and different ways of framing things and talking about things, but now I really do have a deeper appreciation of that. Next, I read A Symphony of Echoes by Jodi Taylor. This is the second book in the Chronicles of St. Mary's, and this is a fun time travel series. It has an older, educated, plus-sized female protagonist, which I am all about, and it's hilarious, it's a little bit spicy, and it's just a good time. It's very high action. There's always something going on. They're always running away from bad guys or thwarting some kind of plot. but there's also just a lot of fun goofiness. I gave this a 4.75, and while I was reading that, I crocheted this corner to corner music note and heart square, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it, if maybe I can find some other patterns that are of a similar size, put them together later, maybe make it into a pillow. We shall see. Then I read Manhunt by Gretchen Felker-Martin, and this is just intensity for, I'd say, 80% of the book. It is just go, go, go action. We get a couple chances to breathe and some backstory of the apocalypse that they are living in. Something has happened, and anyone with too much testosterone, so men, turns into a monster. And so you have to figure out how to live in this world. And of course, what do we do when there's adversity? We turn on each other. So there's various factions who are fighting, and it's, like I said, it's very intense with action, with spicy action. And for someone brave enough, I think this is a good book. I gave it 3.75. And inspired by that, I made this yarn ball sack. Then I read The Secret Life of Food. Strange but true stories about the origins of everything we eat by Matt Siegel. And I would say it has more depth than breadth. It didn't go into everything we eat, but it went very in depth into some of the things we eat. Like, I had no idea that American as apple pie was that intense and genuinely that much a part of America's early identity. Like, it is crazy. And things like John Harvey Kellogg. I actually have a little bit about him in a lecture where I teach, and I found out a lot more about him and his history. And of course, Kellogg's cornflakes. He originated those, but he originated them for a very specific reason. Same thing with graham flour and graham crackers. They were around for a very specific reason. It also kind of made me afraid of fish, which really stinks because I love sushi. But this book is so sassy. I look forward to reading more from Matt Siegel. I didn't see that he had published anything else, so I don't know if this is a debut, but the research he did, it was very well done, very in-depth, and he has such sass. Oh my gosh, the sarcasm, the sassiness of this writing style. I am very excited to see what else he comes up with, and this I gave 4.25 stars. And I finished a series! Gold star for me. I read the third of the Chefs to Go series, Winner Cake All. It started with the Tart of Darkness, Leave No Scone Unturned. And I love cozy mystery titles like that. They are just, they're my kind of humor. And this is the most wholesome, sweet romance. It's not the forefront of the stories or of the series, but it's definitely, you can tell that's kind of endgame. The mystery and the protagonist and her story about starting a new life in a new town is the primary story. And the relationship, it's going to happen from book one. You just know they are end game, end of story. But it's not the forefront, and that is how I prefer my mysteries and my cozy mysteries and my romances, actually. But this is just so sweet. There is no spicy time for this entire book. She is an older, educated, plus-size protagonist. And I love her. I gave this 4.25. The whole series is just so incredibly sweet. And for winter cake all, I made these cute little cookies and cream cakes. Next, I read The Husbands by Chandler Banks, and this started so good. I gave it so much credit that it had not actually earned. I was very annoyed. And the ending. It's basically Stepford Wives meets Get Out. Don't do it. Just don't do it. I also was having a hard time with my various fire-inspired patterns, and I ended up just freehanding this hat and just making it up as I went. And it's a little small for my head, but I think it turned out okay. Better than the book. The book I gave 2.5 stars. No, don't do it. But I do kind of like these little flames that I ended up doing. So my previous students have actually been the ones that told me, oh, you should have a YouTube channel. I would totally watch that. Especially when I try to tell them about some of the really weird books that I've read. Like, I cannot tell anybody about Children of Time. Everyone gives me this like crazy look, but then they're like, I'd watch you talk about that. So they have inspired this whole journey, but my current students don't know that I'm here. And today I got very passionate about something, and they joked that they were going to secretly film me and put me on YouTube. Little do they know. They will here in a few weeks. They graduate soon. But for one of our last units that we do, I like to play a lot of games. It's almost the end. People need motivation. So in addition to all the crocheting I've been doing involving my crochet reading projects, I've also been making a lot of very small stuffies and just little toys and prizes for those games. Because even though I teach adults, people still, they love fun homemade stuffed things. So I will put some of those on the screen, hopefully, and I'll put those patterns in the description box down below as well. Last book to talk about in this check-in is Ilona Andrews' Clean Sweep. And I apparently had misconceptions about Ilona Andrews. I heard of her mostly as kind of a spicy romance writer. And this wasn't spicy. There was barely romance. There is obviously some sort of maybe romance set up, but it wasn't a big part of the plot at all. And in fact, based on the ending, I'm not sure that that's even going to continue. No spoilers. But it was not what I expected, probably in a good way. It was a sweet, orphan, strong female protagonist, vampires versus werewolves, but very interesting twist on that trope that made it new and interesting. Interesting characters. It's not literature, but it was a good time. And I've already put the second book in the series on hold at the library. So I gave it 3.75. And I originally wanted to make this for the wastelands along with those gloves, but I didn't have enough green to make the hood, so I had some cream from a different project. And it's not exactly the hood that she wears in the cover, but I'll say it's close enough. It's inspired by a true story. Parting is such sweet sorrow, and I can't get my outro right. So that was my March 2023 mid-month check-in. 10 books. Overall, a very good reading month. How's your reading month going? Did the Ides of March get you? If you need more recommendations, please watch my other videos. I have so many great books to talk about. And if you want to support me, like, subscribe. There's a link for Buy Me a Coffee website down in the description box below. In the description box below, you'll also find all the patterns for everything I made and showed off in this video. So if you are going to make any of those, let me know. I'd love to see them. And I hope that this month is treating you well. I hope that spring brings you all the happiness that you could possibly want. And I hope that you remember to take care of yourself and just remember to breathe and keep your head up.